Hello, and welcome to this free webinar, Confidence and Self-Worth. My name is Jackie Case, and I will be taking you through this webinar today. I'm from Introducing You to Love, and my little strapline is that could be for yourself or of somebody else. So let's start in. I'm going to start first of all with a question. What is the one thing that you've always wanted to try but never had the confidence to do? I think we've all in our life put barriers in the way of potentially achieving something through lack of confidence. Um, but it'd be interesting to find out. So obviously, please do drop a little message or something and let me know what that is for you. Now, when you were born, you're actually born pure and innate. And we only actually had two fears when we were born, and that is the fear of loud noises and falling. Everything else has been a learned behavior. And the good thing about learning is you can always learn something new if you're giving the resources to do that. And I'm hoping along the way today, I'm going to be able to give you some new resources to help you look at things in a different light. Now, fear is there are two things that can hold you back. Fear is one of them, and that's something that you are saying to yourself that you cannot do or you cannot have. And they say the most powerful words that you will ever hear are the words that you say to yourself. And that's because you are listening. And, sometimes, and I know for myself, can be not very kind about myself. And I think that is the same for everybody. And if you really think about it, if somebody was to walk up to you on the street and say some of the hurtful words that you say to yourself, you would want to punch their lights out. But it's acceptable for us to do it to ourselves. But it's these words, because all it is words that you've heard or things that you believe that are holding you back through fear. And confidence only comes when you are competent of something. Now, let's take your first day at work. Okay, you think back, I don't know how long you've been working in your current job or what you do, or think of an activity that you feel completely comfortable with right now. And I'm going to take work. And the first day you go in for your interview and everything like that, you come home and then it's like, okay, you get the job. And it's the first day and you are getting dressed and you're getting ready and you're feeling nervous and you don't know the environment, you don't know what to expect, and you kind of like get yourself a little bit worked up, anxious, a little bit like, oh my god. And now if you take a look at your job, it's probably like your second home. You don't even think about it, and that's because you've become competent at it over time. Everything in life is about a new opportunity. And we have opportunities all the time given to us, but it's the question of not is whether or not you decide to take those opportunities or hold yourself back. But confidence only comes when you feel competent at it and you're not really thinking about it because you're repeating the process. And so let's take, for example, a person who is dating. If you're single or you are dating, you can't ever really know what the outcome is. So you're always going to feel a little bit vulnerable in the process because obviously you kind of like think you know yourself, but then you've got to meet somebody else. And in relationships, we can sometimes kind of like be mind readers, or we think we're mind readers, and we can second guess somebody else on what they're thinking. But that is wrong because you cannot control another person's emotions. You can only control your own. So you have to work with yourself and put yourself into situations that take you out of your comfort zone to be able to feel a little bit uncomfortable. And that will then give you the chance to experience it. And then the next time you do it, it won't be so overwhelming. But many people tend to avoid situations and putting themselves into scenarios or giving themselves experiences because they are scared of the outcome. So what is self-confidence? So self-confidence comes from a belief. How do you believe about yourself? So if I was to say to you right now on a score of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being high, how would you rate your own self-confidence? Your own ability. Now, of course, as I said, if you're doing something new for the first time, of course you're not going to be this brilliant star at it, but are you able to give it a go? And your own judgment. Do you believe in your convictions? Do you believe, or do you kind of like wait for somebody else to give you and tell you what to do? Trusting yourself, because that's all it is. At the end of the day, you come on this planet on your own. You're going to leave this planet on your own. You've got to learn to trust yourself. Your decisions, what you do. Of course, we've all made bad decisions. We've all made things, I look at when I was younger, and I thought I was invincible. I could do anything I liked. But through decisions that you make, you then are able to say, well, that didn't work, or that did work, but at least I gave it a go. And it's not about being perfect. Now, we all have this, I don't know, sometimes we can be so perfect with ourselves that we're setting ourselves up for disappointment straight away. We have a certain expectation of what we're meant to be. And I think sometimes, if you are so perfect, you actually end up self-sabotaging your success. And actually perfection is key. I always remember, obviously, throughout my 9-10 years of learning about the mind, I always remember one person that did sit out to me, and that was the lady who invented Spanx. And she basically, when she was coming home from school, her dad used to say to her, like most parents would say, well, how was your day? And what did you get up to? And her dad used to turn and say to you, well, what did you fail at today? And you'd think that that's quite a horrific sort of thing to say to a child. What did you fail at today? But his thing was that if you're failing, you're learning. So sometimes you have to make mistakes. It's not about being perfect. So then you can actually tweak it and change it and learn from it. Everything's a learning opportunity. And it's about feeling secure in yourself and not asking somebody else to give you that power. You have to take that power back yourself. And when you do rely on somebody else to make you feel confident, you are setting yourself up for disappointment straight away. And people can find themselves looking externally outside of themselves when I will be more confident or more happy when. Whereas really and truthfully, you can decide to be happy today. You can decide to be confident today. Of course, sometimes skills are needed, but that's really about opportunities and learning and allowing yourself to put you into situations that maybe take you outside of that little comfort zone. So understanding personality and confidence and personality types. And it can be broken down into two areas. You're kind of like your introverts and your extroverts. And, I would say people dip in and out of these sorts of personality types. You're not sort of fixed into one, but let's go through them. So what is an introverted person? And, maybe as I go through these, you might be thinking, oh, that's me. So let's have a look. So an introvert tends to be a person who likes to recharge and spend time alone. Now, through my research of doing the mind and understand the mind, it's quite an interesting thing. Men and women are completely different. And the reason why they're different is you will find men actually have their endorphins by actually being quiet and in their shed. They like that time to be in their shed. Whereas women's endorphins, they actually get recharged by talking to people. And that's why you find a lot of women express themselves through, and they feel better when they actually are able to talk to somebody about how they're feeling. Whereas men, they need that quiet time. Now, that's not all men, of course, and that's not all women, but you will find that the brain will work slightly differently. So in certain scenarios, you might find you might be a person who withdraws, or you like to spend your time alone. They like quieter environments, and they prefer deeper, meaningful conversations than basically small talk. And they can feel drained after being socializing into large groups. I do believe, again, this is a learned behavior. You don't, when you think about it, when we all went to school, and going to school and things like that, I mean, don't get me wrong, there was topics I absolutely hated when I was at school, and I used to switch off and or just go into land of anything I wanted to, apart from being in that classroom. But we all had a stage in our life where we were in big environments, and because of the situation that we were in, we just got on with it. We didn't really question it. But then as we get older and we get adults, we get choice. And sometimes we choose, because of the situation that we're in, to withdraw. And that isn't always good for your mental well-being. And we focus inward, and we find ourselves reflecting on our thoughts and emotions. And if you're not, we're human beings, and we're meant to have human connection. We're not designed to be isolated creatures. We're actually designed to be in a community. But when you find that you are withdrawing and you haven't got anybody to bounce off of through maybe circumstances, you can find that your thoughts then become sometimes your enemy. If you think back to what I said earlier about fear and some of the words that we tend to say to ourselves. So it's an interesting thing on an introvert. So let's have a look at what is an extrovert. An extrovert is completely opposite. They love and they gain energy from being around people. I wonder what I am. They like to engage in social activities. In fact, they thrive. They like to be around other people. But I'm telling you now, it's not something that I learned it through my skills, through the job that I've been in and things like that. Now, for all of you that don't know, my background was hairdressing. So I had no choice. I'm in a salon, and the first salon I worked in, I had 150 people working in it. And so obviously I had no choice. I had to be around people. So you learn depending on the environment that you're in. Enjoy meeting new people. I love meeting new people. I love learning. I love meeting new people. And they come across as outgoing and talkative. Maybe a bit too talkative. And they seek stimulation from the external world. I think education is key. So let's have a little quiz. Let's do a little quiz, 5 questions, just to see where you fit in. So the first question is, how do you prefer to recharge? Are you the sort of person that basically recharges when you are in a small group or with friends? Or do you like being around people and socializing? Which would you say you are, A or B? When faced with a problem, you tend to reflect quietly on your own. You tend to journal your thoughts. You talk it through with others to find solutions. I should put a C on there, or do you just avoid it altogether? And hope it goes away. Number 3, in social settings, you prefer to listen, observe, sit back and join in the conversation, or you jump in and you enjoy leading the discussion. What is your ideal weekend activity? Do you like reading a book, watching TV or a movie, spending time in nature? Or do you like attending parties, networking events, or going out in groups? And the last question is, how do you feel after a long day of socializing? Do you feel drained and in the need for quiet time? Or do you feel energized, looking forward to more interaction? So let's have a look. Add up all your A's, add up all your B's, and let's have a look. So if you scored mostly A's, then you're more of an introverted sort of person. If you scored Bs, then you're more of an extroverted. If you have a combination of the two, then obviously you have a combination. And I do believe you weren't learnt to be an A and you weren't learnt to be a B. It just through life circumstances. And let's have a look at some blocks. So let's have a look at some blocks to confidence and happiness as an introvert. They fear rejection. So what they do is they tend to avoid opportunities because they fear being judged or misunderstood. I'm going to tell you a story. I obviously do one-to-one coaching, and I remember a young lad coming to me, and he basically had become a complete recluse. His job was very isolated. He would then go home, and at the time he lived at home with his parents. And his parents basically were like wits end because he'd become very angry. He'd become very sort of disruptive. And unfortunately, when people come disruptive, they can sometimes take it out on the person nearest and dearest to you. And that happened to be the mum. So the mum phoned me up and she was like, could you come and speak to him? And over a period of time, I had a little discussion with him and I was trying to work out, because there's always a trigger point. Now, this young lad was not going out. He didn't want to do anything. He wouldn't even go to the shops on his own. And through the time that I was with him, I asked him the conversation, where do you think it came from? And it wasn't through obviously getting to know him and stuff like that. And then he let it go that he was at a pub and he was talking to someone. And halfway through that conversation, the person switched off and walked away. And that was the one thing that basically made him not want to be heard or be seen anymore. He felt he wasn't good enough. And that's what then was the spiral for then going into the situation where he ended up becoming very isolated. Now, after a series of therapy with myself, he was able to go to the shops. He started to buy ice cream. He started to just go to the gym, and then eventually he actually went on a train by himself to watch a football match in Liverpool. And at the time I was living in Bicester. And so a huge turnaround. And that's through allowing people to see what people's triggers are and what was the benefit of it at that time, rather than, seeing it as this is my life. So there are opportunities to have a look at fear of rejection. And just because you've learnt it doesn't make it true right now. Overthinking and spending too much time on your own, analysing situations, and that can lead to self-doubt and self-destruction. And that really and truthfully sometimes is depression. They always say there are 3 stages. You have obviously your present, and then you have depression is the past and anxiety is the future. And that's where a person is living in the past or trying to control the future. And overthinking can be a situation where you can actually overanalyze something to the point that you make it even worse. It's almost like because you're focusing on it. So that can then cause you to be more of a person who keeps yourself isolated. And then you end up avoiding, you end up avoiding social things because, you miss, you're in that situation where you just think, oh, I can't be bothered. Now, I think through different stages of our life, we all go through stages where we don't want to be in anybody's company. We want to just recharge our batteries, as it says. But when it's for prolonged periods of time, that's when you really need to be mindful of it. So solutions for introverts is practice expressing your thoughts in a safe and small group. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit later. Challenge yourself and try new social activities monthly. I'm going to talk about that later. Focus on your strengths and listen, active listening, and be thoughtfulness, and do it in a way where you're not always thinking about yourself, you're thinking about the other person. So blocks to happiness and confidence for extroverts. Now, they tend to depend on others for validation. They rely too much on external feedback and feel good about themselves. Now, I know for sure when we take a look at social media, now I do it for my job, love it or hate it. I have to be out there, otherwise my business doesn't operate. The more people get to know about me, the better it is. And that can be quite soul destroying. And when you put something up, you put a lot of effort into something and then no one sees it, or you don't get the likes or the thumbs up. And I suppose in a way that's validation, and that really can affect somebody's emotional, mental moods if they're not strong enough. Overcommitted. They spending yourself too thin, spreading yourself too thin, sorry, and leading to burnout. So you're on the go constantly. You want to be in everybody's situation, and therefore it can make you feel like you're burnt out. You don't allow yourself to recharge those batteries. Difficulty with introspection, avoiding deeper inner reflection due to the focus of external activities. You can make excuses. You can make excuses for not wanting to overanalyze or make things too deep. And in certain situations, I think we can all do that. We can all avoid something. But when it becomes, again, a habit that you're just on a constant Duracell battery, you keep going and going and going, and then not allowing yourself to have that time to, you're spending your time giving it to somebody else rather than actually on yourself. So solutions for extroverts. Set boundaries and prevent overcommitment. Dedicate quiet time and personal reflection. I love it, actually. I love doing journaling in the morning, and I always do it. I call it mind shit. It's where you take the stuff, the go around in your head, and you empty it out on a piece of paper. And it has to be handwritten. You can't just stick it in your phone or something like that. Handwrite it and empty, as I call mind shit. Just get it out. Develop resilience and celebrate personal wins. I think it doesn't matter who you are, whether you are an introvert or an extrovert. I think this is about, when we were at school, again, I always relate it to school, is we had gold stars and we had charts and we had to challenge ourselves. And, and we don't, no one's going to come up to you and go, oh, you did amazing, off their own back, unless you show it to them, so we have to rely on ourselves to do it. So, don't be afraid to actually kind of like go, well, actually, I did good on that. And it's not about being big-headed or selfish or anything like that. It's just allowing yourself to go back to trusting your judgment. Now, we all have life experiences, and later in life, we are having changes of circumstances. Whether you have gone through a separation, whether you have gone through a divorce, whether you are, your social circle might have changed through those circumstances, through moving, work, whatever it is. And life experiences can make you come from being one scenario to being another. So I would say, going back to the introvert and extrovert, it is a transient process. You can flip in between, but it's when you spend too long in one area over another and obviously there are the pitfalls that you have to look out for. That's when the problems can arise, and then you start to misjudge yourself. So look at your circumstances, and maybe, I would say, later on in life, people end up, especially if you have gone through divorce, a lot of people tend to lose their social circle. They may have a few close friends, but they may have kind of commitments. And so therefore it can leave you feeling isolated and alone. Maybe you work from home, and your interaction with people on a daily basis, is not as strong as what it used to be. When you do work from home, you miss out on opportunities that you would have done if you were in the office, even from traveling, getting up and actually going, right, I need to be on the train at this time, or I need to be on a bus at this time, or I need to get in my car, and even going out at lunchtime and getting yourself a coffee. If you're in the same environment for such a long period of time, it can make you feel more introverted. So sometimes you have to push yourself and take yourself out of that comfort zone. Now, I always say every day is a school day. And, you know, the day that you give up learning is the day that you should just give up. We are always able to learn something new. So if there's an area of your life at the moment that's causing you concern, you can learn something new if you give yourself that opportunity. And sometimes you might need some help to do that. And, you know, obviously that's where I can fit in, or you can ask your friends and things like that. But if you don't push yourself sometimes out of that comfort zone, then literally from the point of view, you can stay stuck. And then when you stay stuck, you get bored. Now, Tony Robbins, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, he's a motivational speaker, and he talks about your 6 human needs. And one of those is certainty. We want something that's certain, of course we do, but we also need uncertainty. And that means that we need to be able to, you know, if you woke up every single day and you have the same situation, you wore the same clothes, you went to the same, did the same thing, ate the same thing, you didn't do anything different, you'd be very, very bored. If you don't have an opportunity to try something new, which is the uncertainty, the confidence, then you're never going to be able to thrive and make the most of your life. So if I gave you a blank piece of paper and you were to write down, what do you want? Again, I'd love to know your answers on this. And maybe you might need a little bit of time, but a blank piece of paper, you had nothing, nothing. All you had was that blank piece of paper. Your life before you didn't exist. We certainly can't control what's happening in the future, but what would you like? Now, of course, you can probably put on there nice holidays and cars and all that, which is fine. But what about your own emotions? What would you like? What would you like other people to think about you? Not that you need to rely on other people, but it's more about you. What do you want your life to be? Now, when we were younger, we could be anything we liked. We could have been a Superman. We could have been, you know, I don't know, Wonder Woman. We didn't actually, you know, there wasn't anything that stopped us, you know. But as we get older, we kind of think, oh, reality sits in, normality, and then it stops us, momentum. But if I took that all away from you and gave you the opportunity to have anything you wanted, what would it be? Now, later in life, that's where ambition kicks in. Because as I said, when we were younger, we had lots of ambition. Now, as we got older, we kind of settle. And that's sometimes to do with our own environment. That's to do with circumstances. But that doesn't mean to say that that cannot change. So let's have a look then. Fear. What are you saying to yourself that you cannot do and you cannot have? Notice it. Comfort zone. Where are you most comfortable and how often do you come away from that comfort zone? Who? Is there anybody that you are thinking that you're going to disappoint if you to do something, or they're going to hold you back, or you're seeking approval from somebody? And how are you going to make it happen? How are you going to make what's on that piece of paper happen? And this is where I'd like to help. Let's pause. Let's just pause and give you a safe space to know what's on that piece of paper. We're going to question the blocks that come up. And we're going to put a plan of action together. And then I'm going to hold you accountable. Because I think sometimes, you know, how many times have you done a course? How many times have you tried to do something and then you got carried away with something else? Accountability is key. And when you've got somebody behind you that's, I don't know, a Raven fan or a cheerleader or kicks you up the bum when you're like gone too slow, it's going to really help you to hopefully achieve those goals that, unless they're so unrealistic, but sometimes people make goals and they're so big that they think, oh, but they forget about the little things that happen in between. So sometimes, when we talk about a plan of action, you can have a big thing, but what are the little goals? What are the little gold stars that you need to be able to get that bigger goal? And support and advice, ask the questions, and get your answers rather than have unanswered questions swirling around. And my job basically is to help men and women with blocks to confidence, happiness, and love. And that's what I do. And I do that, as I said, I was going to talk to you about different things. Well, first of all, I am a happiness, love, confidence coach. But if you're in the Berkshire area, then I run events, Berkshire Socialising, and it's for over 45s. I run 3 to 4 different events every month that allow you to connect with like-minded people. Now, when I mean like-minded people, they're at the same, maybe different circumstances in their life. They've gone through challenges. But what is really nice is when you start to share your experiences and you realize you're not alone. And I would say laughter is a must. And they're local. We do walks, we do unwind and socialise at the Peacock Farm in Bracknell. We do walks around into pastures, and that's every Thursday. And we do a dinner party on the last Saturday of every month, and that's with food from around the world. So there's different activities for different people. And then, there's also other opportunities that you have. I do personalized one-to-one coaching. So, we can have a look at really where those blocks are for you. We do a deep dive, which is 24 hours. It's a session, and you can have it over 12 or 6 months, 2 times a week or once a week for 6 months. And we really take a look at 6 areas of your life and really sort of like go in and find out where they are, what activities, because sometimes people don't even know what they want. And then also what I have coming up in January is my Thrive Club for 2025. And it's 12 months of group live coaching. And I think this will be brilliant. It's the first Monday of every month, unless there's a bank holiday. And it's from 8 until 9, and we will have a chance to hold everyone in the group accountable in a safe and friendly way. First of all, you'll get to build a nice little community. We'll do quarterly meetups, hopefully in person. And then each month we'll be covering different topics. And if you go to my website, which is introducingyoulovecode.uk, you'll see a link for both Berkshire Socialising and for the Thrive Club. But there's also information on personalised coaching as well. I hope you enjoyed this little free webinar. I am here to help. Sometimes, why do life on your own, life or love on your own when you can have some help? And hopefully I will get to meet you very, very soon.